What's up, everybody? It is Kellen here from Start Your Systems, and welcome back to MX Simulator, where today we're going to be playing the 2022 Paris Supercross track. The Boots House crew put it all together, so we'll give them proper thanks real quick. Brandon Nyagrin, BAC, Matt Robb, Seth Crotty, Seth Shirley, everybody at Boots House. This track was actually posted on the forums by, I think, a user named Supercross Pig, I believe. But then Bootsy also went in there and added a little track map at the end and yada, yada, yada. So anyway, we're going to play this track today because the Paris Supercross just happened over the weekend. Ken Roczen just won it over the weekend. And we're going to talk about a little bit about the race and then more about what now for Ken Roczen. Where is Ken Roczen going to go moving forward? As some of you may know, he's in the middle of like a weird free agency. It stems back to Honda HRC, whom he'd been with for 6 years. Offered him a contract for Supercross only. Allegedly, it was fairly decent money, but more or less the stipulation was that he could not race WSX, World Supercross, which he had already committed to for a full season. This was back in like June that he'd committed to racing the full season. And Kenny puts it as, you know, they were all good with it originally, and then suddenly they weren't good with it. And Honda puts it as like, well, we want to support our series that we're associated with here. Anyway, long story short, they offered him a contract. They either pulled the contract or Kenny declined the contract or something like that, but he couldn't race WSX and be on Honda in 2023. Like, that was the gist of it, right? So Kenny says, nope, I want to race WSX. He goes and races WSX. Honda pulls the contract while Kenny is in the midst of racing the World Supercross Championship. Honda signs Colt Nichols to a Supercross-only deal for 2023. Then Roczen wins the WSX championship, but it was much closer than I think a lot of us probably expected it to be. Tomac won the first round in Cardiff, but was only going to be a wild card for that one. And then Roczen and Vince Freeze and Justin Brayton had an epic showdown in Melbourne for the championship. It was only a 2-round series. Yada, yada, yada. Roczen wins the title. He's now a World Supercross champion and will be the #1 plate holder going into next season's World Supercross championship. But there was still the Paris Supercross to go, and this was kind of a big one, I feel like, to check off, talk about, whatever, because these off-season races don't mean a whole lot in the grand scheme of things. Like, these elite, talented guys get paid a lot of money to come over and just kind of, like, show up and be there and get the crowd that is in France that doesn't get to see them very often, like, excited about it and stuff like that. But yeah, these guys still want to win it. Like, winning the Paris Supercross still means a lot. It's a legendary race, been around for a long time. Some of the best riders ever have gone over and won it. So, yeah, if you go over and win Paris, it's a big deal. And this year's cast of riders included Roczen, who was still going to be riding for the Honda Genuine Parts Honda team, which is Yuriv Konski's team, which in the U.S. is Firepower Honda, but overseas is Honda Genuine Honda. It's a whole thing. But Tomac was going to be racing it. He was going to be on a Star Yamaha. 2 Red Bull KTM riders, and Marvin Musquin and Cooper Webb were going to be there. Justin Brayton was there. Like, it was a pretty good little list of riders. And, like, you could say, even talking about the fact that, like, Webb, Roczen, Tomac, and Musquin, like, going back to 2019, like, that's like your 4 guys in Supercross. And now, obviously, like, Anderson has put his name in the hat a little bit more of recent times. Chase Sexton, Dylan Ferrandis, like there's more names now, I would say, that could go out there and win a Supercross title than we thought back in 2019, 2020-ish era. But those are the guys. So, like, this is some of the elite talent still in the series. It's the reigning Supercross champion in Eli Tomac. It's the former 2-time champion in Cooper Webb. And Roczen went into France this weekend and beat them all. Tomac won the first night. He was arguably better than Roczen on the first night, but Roczen also kind of struggled with just not getting good starts and having his moments. Tomac was really nailing the starts, but Roczen still did beat him, I think, on the second race of the night. But anyway, it was close enough that if Roczen had a good second night, he could still easily win the title, and he did. He went 1-1-1 on the second night. Won Super Pole again. Eli Tomac cased a rhythm section and seemed to be a little bit off his marks at that point. But yeah, Roczen is crowned King of Paris for 2022. And now the wild sweepstakes offseason, whatever you want to call it, begins for Ken Roczen. He is not signed to anything just yet. there are a lot of potential suitors that are looking after his talents. He's one of the most, kind of like sought after, like true free agents we've had in a long time, where it's not like determined, oh yeah, like one or two teams are going to get him. Like it's still up in the air about maybe there's some factory teams that throw their name in the hat. Like it sounds pretty unlikely that anything, changes in the next couple weeks, but certainly winning Paris definitely at least helps to show those teams that like, hey, I still have the speed and talent right here. Like even though I had a down, middle part and end of my year, the speed that I showed at A1 still exists. I just need to harness it. And Roczen's downfall has always been mid to late season form. So I don't think anybody was really worried that he wasn't going to be fast, but it was more of like, is it still there? And yes, it's still there. He just won. So of course it's still there. But yeah, moving forward, let's talk about a couple situations. First of which, he's been riding for the Honda Genuine Parts Honda team, or the Firepower Honda team, which is definitely a possibility for him to land at. He's not going to go back to HRC. That door's closed with Nichols there now. So if he wants to stay on a Honda, that's arguably his best option. Moto Concepts is also maybe a possibility, but it seems like he's got much more ties right now with Yariv and everybody there. So that seems more likely that he would go there. Now, the problems that presents is that team in the USA is supported by WPS. It is, very much a fly racing program, fly helmets, fly, I think they're all in fly goggles, obviously fly gear and stuff like that. And so for Roczen to go to that team, the team would have to probably negotiate something with them to allow Roczen to continue to wear Fox if that's where he stays. He may, I guess, be enough of a free agent that Fly could say, I don't think his Fox deal has been signed for 2023 just yet. So maybe Fly just comes out of left field and drops a huge offer to get Kenny in their gear and stuff like that. But I just don't know if I see that happening. So I see Kenny staying with Fox and with Red Bull most likely. But if he were to stay with Yariv's team, that would have to be a thing where the team would work out a situation where it's okay for him to stay in Fox, excuse me. But the energy drink conundrum is not a problem there. He could stay in Red Bull, no problem, and I think that would be totally fine with that team. Now, the other team that has sort of started to throw their name in the hat a little bit from some rumors I've been hearing, and a couple people I talked to about it that would know, is HEP Twisted Tea Suzuki. Now, Roczen rode for Suzuki from 2014 to 2016, and then before that, in 2010, and before he was a Suzuki amateur kid and was, kind of tapped as maybe the Suzuki future to a degree. And then he won, obviously, the 2016 outdoor title on a Suzuki and looked really, really good doing it. So he knows that Suzuki, and that Suzuki platform, as we all know, has not changed that much in the recent years. So he'd be kind of going back home a little bit there, but then we talk about the problems of, they haven't developed the bike much, and it's still a kickstart machine. It's kind of old, maybe a little outdated at this point. Is he still going to be comfortable there? And then the exact same problem that was going on with Firepower then presents itself for Roczen, where Twisted Tea HEP Suzuki is very much a Thor branded team. They wear Thor gear and Thor helmets. And on top of that, they are Twisted Tea Suzuki, which is a drink company supporting that program. Now, I don't think Twisted Tea and Red Bull are necessarily in the same market of drinks where they're trying to fight each other for supremacy of, well, Twisted Tea is going to make billions of dollars and Red Bull's going downhill. That's not happening. Twisted Tea is a alcoholic drink. Red Bull is an energy drink. So it's kind of like two different flips of the coin. Does that mean that they're separate enough that Roczen could still be on a Twisted Tea program supported personally by Red Bull? Maybe. I don't know that it's impossible, but I don't know that it's likely either. I guess that would be another situation where if HEP gets him, it would be, again, to go to all of their partners and everything and say, like, look, we want to have an elite talent on the track. Can you forego the, problems that we would have of having him in Fox and Red Bull attire to be on our bike on a Suzuki and underneath our tent and showing off the sponsors, but maybe just not wearing them necessarily at all times? So that is another question mark as well. Beyond that, there are still plenty of options available. Roczen has obviously been testing some Yamahas. That doesn't mean he's going to star or anything like that, but he's been testing some Yamahas at Club MX just for his own, kind of ability to see like where are the bikes that are best for me right now. We saw this kind of a similar situation with Chad Reed in 2000 and going into 2011 when he started 22 Motorsports, and he had left Kawasaki and he'd rode for Suzuki before that and Yamaha before that, and it was like, what is he going to do? What's he going to ride? He eventually rode Hondas and rode them pretty well. Is it possible that Roczen rides a bike that he's never raced before? Sure, yeah. Maybe he goes to Yamaha. Maybe he rides a Husqvarna or something like that. I don't know at this point. But if he does any of those, it might have to be under his own program. He's also purchased some Kawasaki's. He's been riding some Kawasaki's, and that was actually kind of the hot rumor for a while, was that he was going to go his own program, riding Kawasaki's, maybe with a little bit of support from Kawasaki USA, but not factory Kawasaki, obviously, because they're Monster Energy Kawasaki. So that is still up in the air as well. I personally am not close enough to any of these situations to know this is exactly where Kenny's going. But it does, to me, sound like the idea of him staying with Honda, Firepower Honda eventually in the USA, is increasingly more likely. And the reason why I think that is maybe the possibility for him is he's going to be the reigning World Supercross champion next year, which right now it sounds like kind of weird, I guess, because it's a 2-round series. But next year, they're looking to expand to 8 to 10 rounds, and they're wanting to start in like July, which is right in the middle of Pro Motocross. Now, Roczen has expressed interest in wanting to stay racing in the USA, but if a team like Firepower Honda, who also has a WSX program that Roczen rode under the tent for, wants to basically say, hey, Kenny, we'll pay you this amount of money to race 17 rounds of Supercross and this amount of money to race 10 rounds of WSX, and you come in with the number 1 plate, you rep our stuff, you rep our, sponsors, you rep our bike, all this, and then it's a nice fit because he can roll that program right into WSX. Like if let's say he does his entirely own program for Supercross and rides Cowies. That means that if he wants to go back to WSX next year, he has to fit under one of those 10 teams. And right now, the only team that rides the Cowies is that like Bud Racing team, but it's like Bud. I can't remember the full name of the team, but it wasn't a big team this year. Like it definitely was a struggling program, and they weren't like factory Cowie supported or anything like that. And would that mean that Kenny would have Cowie support come over there with him if he's going to race WSX, or would he race outdoors? Like, there's so many question marks, and it's why the Roczen conundrum is so unique. It's not just a free agent that we're talking about that for sure is only going to race in the USA in 2023. Like, if we knew that for sure, then the options become a little bit more clear. But Roczen has the ability to defend his WSX crown and say, I am a Supercross only guy. I'm only going to do Monster Energy Supercross and World Supercross next year. Or he also has the ability, which he's expressed interest in before, of just saying, forget all this, I'm going to go race MXGP. Now, would he get on a factory program there? Not really, because they've kind of got most of their factory teams already sorted over there, but he has at least expressed interest in it, and being from Germany and wanting to go back into Europe and race in front of some other fans, as he's also said, MXGP presents that possibility, and it would give him an opportunity to say, I won an MX2 title. He could maybe win an MXGP title. It'd be pretty tough against that talent, but maybe. And then a 450 national title and a 250 Supercross title. Didn't get the 250 national title, and obviously doesn't have a 450 Supercross title, but he would be like kind of Mr. Worldwide in that sense, where he would have titles just about everywhere. Like, at this point, he's obviously the only well, I'd have to do a little bit of digging to find that out for sure, but I think he's the only like MXGP/MX2 USA 450 Supercross or Motocross and World Supercross champion ever, I think. I don't know. I'd have to do a little bit of digging to find that out, but he's obviously got a unique resume in his back pocket. And for all of you guys saying like, "Well, that doesn't matter. What does it matter if he's WSX champion?" Look, those WSX guys right now, their series isn't that big, but they're coming. Like, they are trying to make it a bigger deal. They are trying to race in a lot of places, a lot of continents, and get Supercross out there more. And they're not afraid of spending money, which a lot of people are these days when it comes to promotional and racing, putting a racing series together. So you combine all those things together, and Roczen could obviously be kind of like the the star catalyst for WSX moving forward, where into his early 30s, he races WSX as like their premier guy. They pay him a premier salary, and why not? Like, it's Ken freaking Roczen. Like, he's a big name. He's got huge sponsors tied to him. He's got a history behind him that's very, very solid. Like, I don't know. Like, people are saying, oh, Kenny's done or whatever, but you're just not looking at the full picture of how much Ken Roczen still brings to the table, and he just proved it. He just went out this weekend, beat the two most recent AMA Supercross champions, kind of did so handily to Webb, in my opinion, and now look at him. He's set himself up for a free agency where it's not like it's cut and dry that no one wants Ken Roczen anymore. A lot of people want Ken Roczen, and where he's going to land is still a very big talking point heading into 2023. So that's everything I know so far. I think once the announcement of where he's going comes down at some point, we'll do another video to talk about it and talk about expectations of, you know, what his season's going to be like and all that stuff. But right now, all that stuff is just so up in the air. It's really hard to predict, and really hard to know what even brand of bike he's going to be on moving forward. Gonna be crazy to watch. Let me know in the comment section below where you guys think Ken Roczen goes and where you would like to see him go. Not necessarily, you know, a realistic expectation, but would it be cool to see Kenny at Star, for example, alongside, you know, Tomac and Francis? Or would it be cool to see him on Cowie somehow, some way with Cianciarulo and Anderson? Like, what would be the coolest spot for Roczen to land, and where do you think Roczen's going to land? That's going to be our topic of discussion here today. But that's all for this video here. Checking out the Paris Supercross track by the Boots House crew and doing some laps as Kenny Roczen. I'll include links to what I'm wearing in the game as well in the description below. Shout out Matt Robb for Roczen's Paris Supercross bike. It looks sweet. And yeah, Kenny Roczen, storyline of 2022 off-season, silly season. All right, guys, that's all for today. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. As always,